This one might have some spice on it. Let's see. My parents have 7 kids. There's me, Kayla, Robin, Sam, Lacey, Zoe, and Robbie. Too many kids already. Telling you out the gate. It's too many. I'm not going to remember all these names either. And I know that you're going to say it. I know that the entire story you're going to use the names. I'm throwing every name out the window and mainly focusing on you. Nope. You didn't even give your name. I'm throwing these names out the window. It's like when I read a George R.R. Martin book. You know what I mean? At a certain point, I'll read about the battle. I'll know everything that happened in the battle. But as far as like the hyper-specific names, I'm sorry. J.R.R. You know what I mean? It's just not happening. They only ever intended to have 2 kids. And even with me and Kayla alone, they'd still struggle. My parents don't have great jobs. We never had much space in our house to begin with, and now we're all crammed in. I started working at 13 to get money so I could pay off for stuff I needed, like a laptop, which I didn't have access to when my school first shut down. We didn't even have internet then. Ooh, I feel that. You know what I mean? My parents swore they were done with Robbie, and they'd get us back on track, and that I wouldn't need to work just to pay off for stuff I needed for school. The weight of being the oldest is already a lot, and I have paid for stuff before. I babysit so my parents can work nights or get a break. Nothing like the oldest, especially. It seems like this happens to girls a lot. The older sister ends up being like the parent, like they're parenting their siblings. But just in general, you know, this always makes for such an interesting situation where the oldest is like the parent, you know, the adult of the household, even though they're like 15. You know what I mean? Or 16. Rough. I take care of the house most days so they can focus on earning money, but it's a lot, and we're really too big of a family for what we can actually afford. My parents get help from the government, but it doesn't go far because they're not good with money or with buying groceries. Ooh, yeah. And groceries are weird right now, man. I would hate to be on like a government program, you know what I mean? EBT, whatever it might be. Because I can't even imagine. Like the way I grew up, it was just insanely broke, and I can't even imagine like how people are making ends meet now because groceries are like way different now. You know what I mean? Like spending $50 at the grocery store used to mean something. Now I spend $50 at the grocery store, and it's like, you know, everything's gone in 2 days. Granted, I'm feeding more than one person, but it's still like it's crazy. It's crazy. You know, McChickens at McDonald's used to be $1. McDoubles used to also be $1. Large sweet teas used to be $1. You could get those 3 things for $3 and taxes. Now you get those 3 things and it's like $10 or something. It's more like 8, but still, you know, it's crazy. When no baby came right after Robbie, I thought they were serious, and I started to think about my future. I'd love to learn to cook better and work in a restaurant, not college exactly, because we could never afford it, and my grades aren't good enough, but something. Then Monday, my parents sat us down and told us that they're having another baby, and mom is like 14 weeks pregnant. They knew for 7 weeks and didn't want to tell us until they were ready. My siblings were mostly surprised, but me, I said, not again. I think I even cried a little, which caught me off guard because I'm not a crier usually. Yeah, your parents are crazy. Like, how are you not doing well financially? You know what? I'll say this. I was an only child, which is crazy because all of my friends that were just as broke as me in the same neighborhood, they would have like 5, 6 brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? It's like super common for people that can't afford the kids to just keep having them, you know? That might be why my mom is doing well off now. Because she wasn't well off my entire childhood, but as soon as I left, you know, as soon as I graduated high school and left, all of a sudden she's making good money and she can get a house. Who would have thought? She was hiding it the entire time. But yeah, I don't know what it is. You got to stop having kids. You know, once you have 2 and you're like, this is really stressful. What makes you decide to have 5 more? Let alone, you know, 6, because now you're gonna have 8. But it is what it is. This was apparently enough to break me, though. My parents got so angry at me and told me to check my attitude. I told them they gave me this attitude by being so reckless and putting so much on me, and now they've broken their promise, and we're going to struggle even more than before. They told me to stop acting like they're doing something to me, that accidents happen, and they never abort. They'd never abort, even if they could. They told me, you don't even, you know, there's things you can do at a certain point, you know, unless you're severely unlucky, you know, buy condoms, you know, that's one thing. You could double up, you know. I'd imagine maybe it's hard for you to get birth control because you have so many kids. It's impossible for you to get birth control. But, you know, there's other means, you know, other than abortion to prevent a pregnancy. But you guys just keep going at it. You know what I mean? Just stop. Stop. You're out of control. They told me to focus on making things okay unless I'm being so negative. I mean, hey, I will say, I take that mindset sometimes, but at a certain point, it's like, God damn, can you guys just stop? Can you stop? I know people say that having money isn't as important as long as you have a loving family, and maybe that's true for some people, but mine feel like a weight that I have to carry, and not something I'm blessed with. They're a responsibility on me, a burden, really. And maybe that's awful to say, but it's how I really feel. I hate worrying about what'll happen if they can't afford the bills, or if my laptop breaks and I can't afford to fix it or get a new one. Or what if we can't afford food, or we can, but I have to pay for groceries instead of save? Am I the asshole? No, you're not the asshole. I'm sure there's probably going to be a controversial comment that's going to be like, grow up, sweetie. The world doesn't revolve around you. To which I would say it also doesn't revolve around your parents that can't stop having kids. No-win situation, not the asshole. Let's go ahead and, not the asshole is the easy take. That's the take for the normies, or I think that's the take most people, even outside of Reddit, would have. However, you seem to be the responsible adult in your family. Your 13 and 12-year-old siblings are of an age to help you with household chores and babysitting. Okay, hold on. 7 kids crazy. It's wild that the only way out would be endangering your life by enlisting in the military. Glad to be growing up in Europe and having good free colleges. Students, okay. Okay. It's always nice to see European lack of empathy who can't help but to rub it in. They always do that, You can be like, hey, what? Well, not even just Europeans, British people specifically. You're like, oh, what's up with the teeth? And they're like, you guys, your children are going to die in a school. And it's like, wow, thanks for really ruining the mood, bud. Honestly, I was all ready to come here calling you the asshole because I think society judges way too harshly poor families for having kids, but she's the kid in the family. I would say for sure that there's definitely like people that aren't poor. They're very judgmental of people that are poor. You know what I mean? And I've built up like a thick skin. Like I don't care about that anymore. Well, I'm also living in a much different situation than when I was a kid. So it's like, it's easy for me to, I guess, kind of negate that, but I think there becomes a certain point where you stop worrying. Like even when I was in school, you don't really worry about the fact that there might be somebody who's like, bro, you've been wearing the same pair of shoes for like 3 years. You know what I mean? They got holes in the bottom. You know what I mean? You just focus on your friend group. I was never really bullied in school though. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I'm always going to have a different take on this. Excuse not to do everything that is being suggested. The military is not for you. The school counselor won't help. Listen, if you made a post so people could feel sorry for you, okay. However, there's some really solid advice floating around, and you could at least consider it. Is this an advice sub, or is this somebody just asking if they're an asshole? I feel you. I understand what you mean here, but it seems like you brought up 2 things, and maybe they turned out the 2 things. I'm looking into Job Corps, which was suggested here. I need more time to figure out what it's about. But I'm not rejecting anything. I'm just rejecting things that I know aren't going to work for me. Military is not something I want to consider. My school counselor knows my grades are shit, and that's all they care about. They won't even give me the time to explain why, so they're not helping me here. I'm telling you right now, genuinely believe that. There's something about education here in the U.S., man. It's a very depressing thing, Don't work in education, even if you work as a consultant. Even if you work as a consultant, so you're not like directly involved in a school district, just like meeting the type of people that work in certain school districts and how like their ego gets in front, ahead of the kids and all that, it will leave you depressed. But anyways, I was kind of hoping that somebody would say you're entitled little baby. Sound advice. Also see if you can talk to a counselor at your school. Why is this getting... Did I miss something? You would get college money too, plus show your siblings the way to escape. You could even be a chef in the army if you wanted to. Somebody did make a point about how I'd call CPS. CPS might make things worse. If things look tidy, they're not going to do anything. And CPS might make things worse, man. Not always, but sometimes. I was going to say something. Oh, yeah, the military thing. There's not like a guarantee that you'd be in combat doing the military. You might just, you might be a mechanic in the Air Force. I have a couple friends that they're doing things in the Air Force and stuff like that. And now some are a little bit more active, but there's others that are just like mechanics. One that's into like sciences. I don't entirely know what he's doing. I think he's going to be developing all kinds of weapons of war, which is great. It's probably going to do real well for him mentally. But he's a smart kid, so I'm sure he'll develop the best weapons for war. But yeah, there's options. But no, you're definitely not the asshole. You're just in a god awful situation, to be 100% honest with you. So yeah.